I'm Adam Zawadzkis, and I'm training for my first 100-mile race in July 2023. This is my weekly series covering each run from week 51 to week 77 of my ultramarathon training plan, spanning almost a year and a half. This is the summary of week 56 out of 77 of the training plan. To start off the peak week for this 50-miler training block, the plan called for a 14-mile easy trail run in the local park. I do this 3.5-mile loop around the park, so 14 miles came out to be 4 loops in total. This allowed me to stop by my car a couple of times and practice getting some solid foods in during the run, which I need to do so I know my stomach can handle it on race day if I start rejecting gels and liquid carbs. I got in a banana with no issues during this run. I had a small package of Pringles on deck, but I didn't end up using them. I'll try them on Saturday during the big training run instead. It wasn't too cold or windy, and the sunrise made this whole run a great way to wake up for the day and kick off this week. Then, on Tuesday, it was time for the biggest track workout of the season. This workout consisted of a 2-mile warm-up, followed by 10 800-meter repeats, then 2 miles at threshold tempo pace at around 6:20 minutes per mile, finished off with a 2-mile cooldown. Running a 2-mile tempo with the tripod was out of the question this time, so it didn't take any footage, but this workout was the craziest as I was greeted with rain and brutal wind when I got to the track. I pushed through it though, literally and figuratively, finishing the 800s all under my goal of about 256 for each rep, to keep it somewhat conservative for the 2 fast miles after the track. Luckily, those 2 tempo miles went very well, as I had quite a bit left in the tank and the wind and rain died down a bit. The intention of adding a tempo session at the end of this workout was to get used to running uncomfortably fast after tiring myself out after some anaerobic training. This really pushes your anaerobic system and is great for increasing your VO2 max over time and is very useful for shorter races like a 5 or 10K. I was very happy with this workout. I was properly tired after it as well. On Wednesday, also the first day of March, it was time for a 10-mile easy run in between this week's 2 big workouts. This Wednesday has more mileage attached to it than normal because I wanted to keep Friday a very low mileage day in preparation for the weekend and avoid any sort of overuse problems that could flare up this week. The challenge about these big mileage weeks is that every run has to be well thought out and intentional. This applies to every week in a training block as well, but especially during this peak week where energy can be lower than normal, stress can be higher, and time can be more constrained. For the vast majority of people, finding time to fit in 10 plus hours of running and maybe even lifting and stretching on top of that isn't easy, so careful planning is needed. If something comes up, like bad weather, tragedy, etc., you'll be better prepared to adapt if the week is planned out with backup time slots for runs or workouts that can fit into. Plan what you can and control what you can control, but always be prepared to react efficiently to what is out of reach. The run itself was a good one and felt very fast as the majority was under an 8-minute per mile pace at a very low heart rate. I was very happy with this one and was ready to tackle Thursday's threshold workout. And on Thursday, that threshold workout was slated to be a 10-mile steady-state run. The plan for this one was a 2-mile warm-up, then 6 miles at my lactate threshold, then a 2-mile cooldown. Just waking up this morning, I felt like I was going to be ripping during this workout, and it turned out to be a great workout, averaging around 6:25 for the 6 hard miles. I was actually bummed the fast miles ended so early because I was feeling so good, but I can't overdo it before this weekend's big long run. I ended up overshooting the total distance on this one by about a half mile, so I subtracted the overshoot from Friday's shakeout run, bringing the distance on the calendar down to 3.1 miles. This workout flew by, and 10.5 miles were done just like that. Switching gears on Friday, it was time for a quick, easy 5K run to recover from the prior workout going into Saturday's big run. I couldn't believe how fine I felt on this day following this week's high mileage so far. I give credit to my strength training routine 3 times a week for giving me the ability to endure so much hard work during the week, and is why it's important for every runner, whether you're a 100-meter sprinter or an ultra runner and everything in between, to have a lifting routine at least twice a week. After this run, I was feeling ready to tackle Saturday's long run. And finally, here is Saturday's peak 50-kilometer or 31-mile long run on the towpath to simulate the race in a couple of weeks and to allow my dad some practice crewing to know what to expect during race day. See you in a bit. We set up 3 checkpoints along the course today, about 7 to 8 miles away from each other, which is the distance between aid stations where I'll be seeing my family during the race. We started in the dark around 6 a.m., as in a couple of weeks, the race starts at 7 a.m. in the dark for about a half hour because daylight savings time is in a week. The first leg of the run went by quickly as it was in the dark and I felt really fresh after Friday's short shakeout run. I warmed up quickly as it was 31 degrees this morning and was thankful I decided not to throw a second layer on in anticipation of strong winds. Meeting my dad the first time at mile 7, I was just cruising at a 7:45 pace and feeling good. And all I grabbed was a refill on electrolytes and water, as well as a couple of gels. I also dropped off my headlamp as it got light out already.
I'll see you in 8 miles.
All right, 8 miles. See ya.
The next 8 miles were very nice, as I was still cruising comfortably, munching on a waffle and a gel here and there, enjoying the nice views of Cuyahoga Valley. It did turn out I undershot the second meeting point though, so I had to run past my dad for about another mile down and back, meeting him at about mile 16.5.
So,
How's it going?
a mile short.
That was really short.
I'm gonna run a mile down. I'll meet you back up.
Right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why it's so short. Crazy. What's going on? So the bad news is we undershot it.
Yeah.
But the good news is we're way past the halfway mark.
Excellent.
Here I downed a banana and left feeling pretty solid still. The next 8 miles still felt good, but the monotony of running straight on the towpath was starting to get to me a bit, which shouldn't be as much of a problem during the race because it's on a part of the towpath I've never been on. I met my dad at mile 24 and skipped the refills as I wanted to opt for less weight for the last 5 miles. I did smash a Pringles snack pack though, which was a nice change from the sweet gels, Stinger waffles, and electrolytes I've been consuming up until this point. Leaving the last stop, I was starting to feel stiff, presumably from all the mileage earlier in the week, but it was nothing I couldn't manage. It was mile 27 where I started to feel pretty rough and just pretty stiff and fatigued from being on the trail for about 3.5 hours at this point. However, you just gotta keep trucking, and in 4 hours and 15 minutes the 50K was complete.
Almost there. Almost there. Alright, let's do it again.
Now, this run told me a couple of things. One, I'll have to slow it down quite a bit to about 8:30 to 9-minute pace to sustain a steady pace for another 3 hours or so to reach 50 miles. 2, if I can run a quick 31 miles with very little recovery, I know with a proper taper, I probably won't feel rough about until the 35-mile mark, which is great. Overall, this was a fantastic run, and I couldn't have done it without my dad, who dedicated his entire morning to helping me out. So a huge thank you to him. To conclude, that marks the end of this 50-miler training block. At this point, all of the very hard work has been put in to reach this level of fitness in preparation for the prerequisite race. Now, it is just important to recover and maintain fitness through the taper into the event by reducing overall running volume, but keeping intensity pretty close to what it has been. Therefore, I'll be running shorter runs, but the timing of my workouts will stay the same through next week. A track workout on Tuesday, and a tempo session on Thursday. This week came to a total of 80.06 miles, and now I hope to see you guys next week for the taper. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic week.